1. Dream. Kalugin fell asleep and had a dream that he was sitting in some bushes and the policeman was walking past the bushes. Kalugin woke up, scratched his mouth and went to sleep again. And had another dream that he was walking past some bushes and that the policeman had hidden in the bushes and was sitting there. Kalugin woke up, put a newspaper under his head so as not to wet the pillow with his dribblings, and went to sleep again. And again he had a dream that he was sitting in some bushes and the policeman was walking past the bushes. Kalugin woke up, changed the newspaper, lay down and went to sleep again. He fell asleep and had another dream that he was walking past some bushes and the policeman was sitting in the bushes. At this point, Kalugin woke up and decided not to sleep anymore. But he immediately fell asleep and had a dream that he was sitting behind the policeman and some bushes were walking past. Kalugin let out a scream and tossed about in bed but couldn't wake up. Kalugin slept straight through for 4 days and 4 nights, and on the 5th day he awoke so emaciated that he had to tie his boots to his feet with string so that they wouldn't fall off. In the bakery where Kalugin always bought wheaten bread, they didn't recognize him and handed him a half-rye loaf. And the sanitary inspection, which was going around the apartments, on catching sight of Kalugin, decided that he was unsanitary and of no use for anything, and instructed the janitors to throw Kalugin out with the rubbish. Kalugin was folded in 2 and thrown out as rubbish. Sleep teases a man. Markov took off his boots and with a deep breath lay down on the divan. He felt sleepy, but as soon as he closed his eyes, the desire for sleep immediately passed. Markov opened his eyes and stretched out his hand for a book, but sleep again came over him, and not even reaching the book, Markov lay down and once more closed his eyes. But the moment his eyes closed, sleepiness left him again, and his consciousness became so clear that Markov could solve in his head algebraic problems involving equations with 2 unknown quantities. Markov was tormented for quite some time, not knowing what to do. Should he sleep or should he stay awake? Finally, exhausted and thoroughly sick of himself as in his room, Markov put on his coat and hat, took his walking cane and went out on the street. The fresh breeze calmed Markov down. He became rather more at one with himself and felt like going back home to his room. Upon going into his room, he experienced an agreeable bodily fatigue and felt like sleeping. But as soon as he lay down on the divan and closed his eyes, his sleepiness instantly evaporated. In a fury, Marco jumped out from his divan and without his hat and coat raced off in the direction of Tavritsky Park. 3. Beginning of a very fine summer day, a symphony. No sooner had the cock crowed than Timofey jumped out of his window onto the roof and frightened everyone passing below. Khariton the peasant stopped, picked up a stone and threw it at Timofey. Timofey disappeared somewhere. What a dodger, cried the crowd, and a certain Zubov charged forward and slammed his head into a wall. Ouch! Exclaimed the peasant woman with a swollen cheek. But Komarov slapped this woman left and right, and the woman ran off howling into a gateway. Fetyushin walked past and laughed. Komarov went up to him and said, "And this is for you, you fat oaf," and struck Fetyushin in the stomach. Fetyushin doubled over, clutching the wall, and started to hiccup. Romashkin spat out of his window from above, trying to hit Fetyushin. Meanwhile, not far away, a big-nosed woman was beating her child with a trowel, and the young, plump mother was rubbing her pretty little girl's face against the brick wall. A small dog which had broken its thin leg was sprawled on the pavement. A small boy was eating something foul from a spittoon. There was a long queue for sugar at the grocery shop. Women were swearing loudly and shoving each other with their bags. Khariton the peasant, having just downed some pure alcohol, was standing in front of the women with his trousers undone and uttering bad words. Thus began a very nice summer day. 4. Cap. The first man said to the second, "I didn't see them." "How could you not see them?" the second man replied. "When I was putting caps on their heads." "Well," the first said, "you might have been putting caps on them, but I didn't see them." "Is that even possible?" asked the second man, his long mustache quivering. "It is," the first man answered, smiling with his blue lips. The man with the mustache grew impatient and demanded, "Explain to me how it is possible to put caps on people's heads without seeing them." But the blue-lipped man simply shook his head, smiled mysteriously, and refused to explain. "You devil," the mustachioed man exclaimed, "stop playing games with me. Did you see them or not?" Instead of answering, the blue-lipped man smirked one last time and vanished, leaving nothing behind him but his cap floating in midair. "You are one of them, aren't you?" muttered the mustachioed man, reaching for the cap. But as his hand stretched out, the cap darted away. He chased it down near Krasovska Street, past the bakery, past the bathhouse, while bewildered onlookers from the nearby beer hall watched in amazement before returning to their drinks. The mustachioed man continued his pursuit, his arms outstretched, mouth agape. His his mustache trembling wildly and his hair sticking out in frantic tufts like feathers. The chase led him to Litena Street, where a police officer and a citizen in a grey suit suddenly intercepted him. They seized the old man and dragged him away. Meanwhile, the cab veered right and soared towards the Neva River. A passerby caught sight of it at the corner of Pantelemonovska Street. But by the time it reached Furstatska, the cab had disappeared, leaving no trace. Optical illusion. Semyon Semyonovich puts on his glasses, looks at the pine tree and sees a peasant is sitting on a branch of the tree, shaking his fist at him. Semyon Semyonovich takes off his glasses, looks at the pine tree and sees that no one is there. Semyon Semyonovich puts on his glasses again, looks at the pine tree and again sees that a peasant is sitting there, shaking his fist. Semyon Semyonovich takes off his glasses again and sees that no one is there. Semyon Semyonovich puts on his glasses once more, looks at the pine tree and again sees that a peasant is sitting there shaking his fist. Semyon Semyonovich refuses to believe in this phenomenon and considers it an optical illusion.